take home the gold.
He could be too far. No, he's kicking. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Wu for the win. Team Canada. Garrett Wu!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chaffer.
Canada just became the world champions.
Yo, Canada and the rest of the world, you're listening to Huckin podcast. I'm your solo host today, Theo Wan, living out in St. Catharines, Ontario. Today, have some pretty cool guests coming on the podcast, Amanda Hadwen and Sam Butt. Those two made Team Canada for the first time, and they did it at the, I would say, second highest level that you can do it in Canada, which is WC. The world's team used to be WGC. I think the highest level being World Games, of course, less spots. But for those two to make it, it's a pretty cool story. I know there's a couple others as well. So shout out to any of those. I couldn't interview everyone, but shout out to those who made TC at WC level for the first time. Pretty cool. Perhaps they got cut or perhaps they just never tried out. But the fact that they do it at that level for the first time is really cool. So first of all, kudos to you. Before we jump into those interviews, going to do some indoor series news, Canadian University style.
We now have breaking news.
There was a tournament that happened this past weekend, 10 teams in each division, so I'll just run through it right now. First of all, shout out to my alma mater, because I went to the University of Guelph and they swept it in both divisions, so kudos to you for doing that. There were 10 teams in each, like I mentioned. So we'll start in women's. A couple teams from McMaster, so they usually do this. They do a little split squad action. Ottawa, Guelph was there, as I mentioned. London, I guess they can't go as Western. So players that happen to go to Western University on this London team, I'm just going to say that. London went. Brock, TMU, Sherbrooke, Waterloo A, and Carleton in the women's division. So it went 2 pools of 5. I guess seeding like... Yeah, I guess Batchy would have seeded this. And yeah, it's just interesting because I don't really know. I guess you seeded perhaps from outdoor, but the 2 seeds in the bottom of the pools here for Pool A, Sherbrooke and Waterloo, actually went 3-1. So pretty cool. Sherbrooke, I ended up losing to Waterloo, but Sherbrooke got a W over McMaster X 17-16, which helped their cause there. So they both go 3-1. Looking at Pool B, McMaster Y goes 4-0, followed by Guelph that goes 3-1. The bottom seed of that pool, Carleton, actually went 2-2. So from there, it looks like there were, I think just because tight scheduling. So I think if you finish, it looks like if you finish third in your pool, you automatically go play for third. And if you finish first and second, there's a little crossover action happening for first place. So the crossovers or like 1 versus 2 kind of thing. So Guelph takes on Waterloo 2011 and looks like McMaster Y does the same to Sherbrooke by the same score line actually. And that sets up a Guelph McMaster final. Guelph takes it 13-6, so not particularly close, especially in indoor. So that's a pretty convincing win from Guelph. I don't remember off the top of my head how they did in outdoor, excuse me. But this is a good win for them. Obviously, indoor is a little bit different. People don't necessarily treat it the same, I guess, but view it in the same prestige. But hey, a dub is a W in my opinion. So shout out to Guelph. I'm actually just going to check the results quickly before I crown someone like how they did in the fall. So let me just take a look here as we're recording kind of live on the air. Guelph actually finished 5th. So Guelph finished 5th outdoors, and they get first here in the first indoor kind of tournament. There's a couple others happening. I know Kingston, RIP to the Dome, doesn't have one. So there's another tournament happening, I believe, in February from what I saw. And then that's in Brampton at the Save Max Sports Center. So university teams, you can still, I think you can still register for that. And then now we go open division. So the teams for that are as follows. Guelph, Waterloo A, McMaster X, Laurier, the aforementioned London, players that happen to potentially go to Western University. Toronto X. Not sure why you're Toronto X when there is no Toronto Y, but anyways, Toronto X. Waterloo A also, there's no Waterloo B here, but anyways, McMaster Y, so that is a split. Based on the roster I saw, I think McMaster went a little bit more A-B, whereas I think women's, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I think they went more split. From what I saw, McMaster kind of stacked one of their rosters a bit more from the names I know. Carleton A, TMU and Carleton B. Carleton also looks like they put their top players on the A squad and it wasn't like a split, hence why they went A-B. So in pool play, big result out of Pool C, so that's the first pool of Open, was McMaster X going 4-0, actually defeating Guelph. Spoiler alert, Guelph does win, but the whole tournament. But in pool play, they lose to McMaster 18-17, so close game. There's like the hard cap rules in indoor. So like if the whistle goes or the horn or whatever, then the game is over. So, unless there's a tie, then you finish a point. Okay. So just remember that with indoor rules. Pool D, Waterloo A goes 4-0. So cleaning up here, and Carleton B, hey, some big love over here going 2-2. And then London, goes 3-1. So same format as women's. With 3-3 kind of playing for fifth. Hopefully I said that earlier, but yeah, the 3 seeds from each play for fifth. And Carleton A faces Carleton B. That's kind of fun. I think they were live streaming it too. I got a notification about it, but Carleton A wins 16-10. In the semis, we have McMaster X besting London 14-9. And then Guelph, the second team of their pool, defeats the first seed of the other pool in Waterloo 14-11, setting up a rematch from pool play. Guelph gained the best of the squad from the Hammer, the Steel City. They win 14-13. So a thrilling matchup. Obviously, I wasn't there. By the scoreline, it sounds like it was electric. So 14-13 is the score. Guelph wins. They complete the sweep on the weekend. So congrats to you. More indoor coverage to come potentially. I know college tournaments are starting up as well. So Ultimate slowly starting to get back. Haven't really seen a lot of club announcements. I know there's been some new clubs announced, but haven't really seen like tryouts or anything like that pop up. I know Strike listed their roster last year. I don't know if it was this time, but they went a little earlier than normal. So perhaps you'll see some of that. But anyways, that's kind of your fill-in or news for that. We're going to jump in right away. After this break, of course, with my interview with Amanda Hadwen, and then after that, Sam Butt. So let's hit the break, and then here's some awesome interviews. This is Theo.
And I'm Danny, and we are wishing you a new year, new you. So that means to brush off that dust off that disc, go outside and throw. No excuses. No excuses, not even snow.
And you're listening to the Huckin podcast, your coast-to-coast guide
to
for all things Canadian Ultimate. All right, folks, we're here for main event part 1. Really excited because, I get to interview another McMaster alumni. So, McMaster, I sometimes give you flack, but hey, I'm giving you love right now because we got a McMaster alumni on the podcast. That's Amanda Hadwen. Amanda, first of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, podcast debut right here on Huckin, so we do appreciate that. So, this is your first podcast. You also made Team Canada for the first time. That's why you are being interviewed today, because we're sharing stories of people who've made Team Canada for the first time. And that's like on the World Ultimate Championship now. It used to be WGC, but WC now. So Amanda, tell us what team you play for currently. I just mentioned you already went to McMaster, so I gave you that intro, but where do you play right now?
So in the summer, for club, I play on Sixers, and then I just made TC, and I used to play on Mac as well. So still going to school there. And plug for my
medical student
04UC team that we're hopefully putting in.
Is there a name for that team?
Oh, there is a name. It's called Golfy Gets It Sold. It's kind of a Hamilton like inside joke about this real estate guy who has ads all over the city.
I've seen that poster.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
It's this giant poster, and it says like Golfy Gets It Sold. And you can't be in Hamilton and not see this guy's face everywhere.
Yeah, my best friend lives in Hamilton, so I've seen that many a time. Anyways, we're here to talk about frisbee, your career. So tell us how you got into frisbee in the first place, because that's not the sport that you played growing up, kind of, right? You were playing something else.
Yeah, so my main sport has always been hockey. And I played that like all through high school, all through university, at the varsity level. But I kind of started playing frisbee more competitively, I guess, towards the end of high school. So when I was a kid, my parents played league and they taught me how to throw. And then I was kind of looking for a new summer sport in like grade 11, grade 12. And there were some people at my high school who played. And so I just kind of joined the team and started playing juniors in my last year. And then ever since then, I kind of have just been like playing more and more each year. At the start, I was playing like frisbee and hockey at the same time. But now, since I don't play hockey anymore, I just like play frisbee all the time.
And do you miss hockey at all? Like, is this something you think about often?
Well, I don't think about it that often because it just like doesn't cross my mind as much. But I definitely do miss it when I play again. Like every time I get on the ice now, I'm like, oh yeah, this was really fun. I wish I could do it more. But not so much that it, you know, bothers me in any way. Frisbee's a great replacement.
Yeah, that's fair. And
Yeah.
So you didn't play at McGill though, correct?
Ultimate?
Like you didn't play frisbee at McGill?
No, I didn't because I was playing varsity hockey. Like it was 40 hours a week or something ridiculous, and I just didn't have the time. Yeah, so I'm in med school now, which is why I came to Mac in the first place. So I started that in fall 2021. Okay. So I played last year and the year before that with Mac. And that's how I kind of ended up in Hamilton and in the Toronto area playing more frisbee.
Okay. As someone who works in varsity sports, it's just very fascinating that you played varsity hockey. There's knowing the athletes that are at Brock, for example, there's a lot of hours that go into it. So definitely more hours than you usually see with an ultimate team. So now you made TC, as we mentioned. Clearly there had to be some development there from playing kind of the juniors, as you mentioned, played McMaster, played a year of club with Crash. Like, what do you think was the key to development the last couple of years? Because it's been a rapid rise for you. As you mentioned, you kind of just started playing like more competitively once you got to Mac, which is only a couple of years ago. So what was the key to development for you there?
I think, honestly, more touches on the disc and like playing year round. Because when I was playing in undergrad during the summers, I would play for maybe 2 or 3 months of the year, and then I wouldn't touch a disc for like the rest of the year. And so it was hard to, I think, like progress in any significant way. And then when I got to Mac, all of a sudden, like I made friends on the team. I started spending like a lot of time with those people, and we were playing frisbee all the time. So I just got a lot more touches that way. And started figuring out what I was good at and what I was like not good at. And then I think that's kind of what started me getting like just better and better.
And well, you were in the Hamilton area. It is a fair commute for those that might not know. It is a fair commute to Toronto, especially during rush hour in the summers. So what compelled you to try out for a Toronto team instead of just kind of sticking around the Hamilton area?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. I played Crash, not 2023 summer, but the summer of 2022. And that was like 45 minutes from Hamilton. It wasn't that bad. It was a mixed club team, which I had played previously, like mixed club. And so I thought it would be a fun time. The level was pretty good. And then this year, I just decided that I should try to give myself a fair shot to be the best ultimate player that I could possibly be. And to be that player, you have to play on the best possible team that you can play on. And so I just went to all the tryouts in Toronto. And then I made Sixers. And once I made the team, I kind of thought to myself, I can't really pass this up. Like if I say no, then I'll regret it because I won't be giving myself like a fair shot to be the best version of a Frisbee player that I can be. And so then that's why I did it in the end.
Can you talk a little bit about the adjustment from going to a team, first of all, mixed club, that finishes like relatively high in mixed, but isn't medaling at CUC like Sixers is and going to USAU. So what was the adjustment like going from even just mixed to women's and then also a little bit of a higher jump there? No disrespect to Crash, but just a little bit of a higher jump there. What was that like?
Yeah, absolutely no disrespect to Crash. Like I had a great time playing for them in 2022 and I learned a lot. And I would say that the leadership there is like responsible for a lot of my development as a player. And yeah, we finished 5th at nationals. So it was definitely not we were definitely a good team. But then switching to women's was interesting because I think this seems obvious, but like in women's ultimate, women play every single role on the field. And I found that in mixed ultimate, that isn't always the case. I'm not going to say that for some teams it's not. I think it can be, but sometimes in mixed ultimate, certain roles are taken by men and certain roles are taken by women, like matching players. So it was just interesting to switch to women's and have like that much more freedom in terms of what I was kind of able to contribute on the field. So that was interesting and kind of a nice change for me switching to women's. And then in terms of the level, and with Sixers being kind of such a top team in the country and in that position to medal at nationals, I feel like that's kind of what I wanted. And so I just bought in and tried hard and then everything kind of went from there.
And we talked a little bit about this off air about, some names in Ultimate, but as someone that's more new to the scene, when you're playing, like you're at US Open, correct, in Colorado? No, I commentate your game. You were there. I remember this now. You were definitely there. I said your name a couple times. So you're playing against the top US club teams there. Some people might be, fangirling or fanboying because they see some of the stars, but you might not be noticing that. So for you, what's it like to match up with some of those players on the field as you're on D-line? You're matching up against some of the top offensive players in the U.S.
It was kind of crazy. I mean, I am new to the elite women's scene, I guess, but I don't I still watched Ultimate before. Like I still knew who the top players in the world were. And then I got to US Open, which was my first international tournament ever. And I was like, there was a few points where I somehow ended up against Valeria. And I don't know. I just kind of resigned myself to the fact that I was going to get absolutely roasted. And that just had to be okay because she's like one of the best players in the world. And I am definitely not quite at that level. So it was definitely a super cool experience and just kind of gave me more motivation to try to get closer to that point. Like I want to be someone who can hold my own against players like that sometimes. Not all the time because she's crazy, but sometimes.
Yeah, mitigate their effect on the field. I hear what you're saying. So as the year progresses and you're playing with Sixers, when was there maybe one light bulb moment or a couple where you're like, hey, I should really apply for Team Canada and put my name in the hat and just try like I did put my name in for Sixers? What was there a couple moments there for you?
I think it's similar to what I was saying about making Sixers in the first place. Like, I just wanted to give myself the best chance to be the best Frisbee player that I could. And so I always was kind of planning just to apply and go to the tryouts, just so that I could match up against like the caliber of players that were going to be there. My goal when I originally applied like wasn't necessarily to make the team. I just wanted to be at the tryouts and like have that experience because I had never tried out for a TC team before, and I wanted to match up against good players who were going to be trying to make the team. Obviously, I kind of like applied thinking maybe like if things go right, there could be an outside chance that I could make it. But I definitely wasn't expecting to at the time that I like applied to go to the tryouts.
And can you give those that haven't been to a TC tryout kind of an insight to what the tryouts were like from your perspective? Because you've done tryouts before for club teams, but what was it like to try out for a Team Canada? It was in the fall and it's cold outside too, I'm pretty sure. But what was it like?
It was really hot, actually. I think it was like 25 degrees.
Wait, it was hot that weekend?
Yeah. It was warm.
Oh, shoot. Got my facts wrong right there. That's tough.
Nah, that's okay. Yeah, it was kind of just like club tryouts, but more intense and with a lot more people because they were trying out the open, mixed, and women's team at the same time. So I think there must have been close to 100 people, maybe even more, that were at the East tryout. And everything kind of went by like a very set schedule. We didn't fall behind. And so it was just kind of more intense than other tryouts I've been to for Frisbee. And the drills that we did were a bit different as well. I think because they expect everyone to have the basic skills already, then the drills kind of focused on other things related to like strategy or like actual gameplay versus just basic throwing and catching and cutting.
Yeah. So you come from the now we know hot tryouts. My memory served me incorrect there. And you wait a little bit and then you get either a call or email or however it was delivered. So when you get the news, what was like your first reaction?
I think so. They told us ahead of time, like what day that the first offers would be coming out. And so I remember getting the date wrong in my head. So I thought it was a week later than it was. And then I was like talking to some people and they were like, oh, remember like the offers come out tomorrow. And I was like, so I wasn't really thinking about it that much until like the day before when I realized that the offers were going to come out. And so then I was just like refreshing my email. And I think when I got the email, I was kind of, I don't even know. I feel like I was kind of in shock. Like by that time, I thought that I had performed pretty well throughout the course of the season. And I thought, okay, like there is a chance I could make it. But I definitely didn't think I was going to make it for sure. So I thought it could kind of go either way. And then I got the news that I did make it. And so I was just kind of like trying to accept that in my head, I guess. Like it was kind of unbelievable at first.
And who's the first person you told?
Yeah, I think the first people I told were like the people like really close to me in my life. Like I told my family, I told my partner. And then like after that, they told us not to post anything about it. So I didn't tell too many people like in the Frisbee community, I guess. Like word always gets around, but I think I kept it like kind of quiet at first.
It sure does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's super exciting for you. And yeah, just the journey, like we've talked about, like you've played before, as you mentioned, but just like the real accelerated growth has been really cool to see. And so now you have an opportunity to give advice to someone else that maybe is going to be trying out for TC in the future that has never made one, or has aspirations to make U20, U24, whatever that looks like. What's some advice that you can give them to kind of get them motivated?
It's kind of hard for me to give advice on like what to do to try to make it, because I feel like I didn't necessarily take specific actions so that I could make the team. Like I just did the things that I thought would make me a better and better player. And then that resulted in me making the team. So I would say, like, I guess try not to focus too much on the end goal and just focus on the process of becoming a better player. That would be number one. And then number two, there's always a chance. Like, even if at the start of the season or at the start of the year, you don't think you're good enough, or you look at other people around you who are way better, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't progress quickly and get to a similar level. So even if you think it's too late, it probably isn't, and you can still get better enough in time.
I like the advice. Two-pronged approach there. You mentioned like taking the steps to be a better player. For you, that was trying out, as you mentioned already, for the best team possible. And so that advice, I think, rings true even for people in smaller communities. You can try to, I know people often will travel, a province or two to play. So definitely agree with that advice. You would say that probably your hockey background has played a big role though, right? Like just the athleticism you have from playing like elite level hockey probably helped you out as well, right?
I would definitely say so. Like I just have a pretty strong background in terms of the fact that I've just put a lot of hours into sports in my life. So I think that helps like with general athleticism. And then you learn skills in one sport that are applicable to other sports. And also just kind of the mentality that I have around competition has carried over from hockey to Frisbee mostly. So yeah, I think there's definitely translatable skills, but there's some things that don't translate as well also.
Yeah. So Amanda, we appreciate you coming on, talking about your career, and yeah, just really stoked that you get to live out your Team Canada dream, first time tryout, first time making it. That's kind of cool. So any final words you got for the audience before we sign off here?
Yeah, no, I don't think I have any final words. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the time. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited.
Yeah, you should be. You got to go to Land Down Under and play some high level ultimate. So some of the highest level ultimate that you can play. So that's really exciting. For the audience, stay tuned because I'm going to have another interview, and that's going to be with Sam Butt, who's also making Team Canada for the first time. So you get to hear different perspectives, and perhaps that's going to motivate you to try out for Team Canada. So Amanda, thank you for coming on. Stick with us after this quick break, and Sam Butt will be on the podcast.
Hey, this is Jamie Boss, coach of Ottawa's Crank Mixed Ultimate, and you're listening to the Huckin podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
All right, folks, welcome back from the break. We got main event part 2 now, so another first-time TC member on the WUC team. So really excited to be joined by some national team royalty out here on the podcast. So we got Sam Butt in the house. Sam, you said this off air. This is your first podcast, so how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, it's a bit nerve-wracking, but I'm all here for it. So
yeah, let's get it. Let's get it right away. So your name is Sam Butt. Where do you play Ultimate right now?
I'm currently playing in Vancouver with Furious George.
Did you play in UBC, or are you done UBC now?
I've actually never played College Ultimate.
What? You never played UBC?
I've never played College Ultimate too.
Oh,
of any sort.
Did you go to school, like college then, or no?
Yeah, so I'm currently attending Langara College, but in terms of like college ultimate or anything like that, I've only played maybe like regionals level, like within the city, kind of like with like some pickup team, but like never any of like the real college ultimate like USAU series stuff.
Okay, I got exposed in my research with Amanda. Same thing here. I don't know why I thought you played UBC, but it's always the pipeline. It's just like you expect people that play Furious to have played UBC. So
Yeah, UBC and UVic.
yeah, exactly. So okay, now let's back all the way to the beginning of your journey. How did you get into Ultimate? How did you get into the sport?
So I got introduced to the sport, I think grade 8 in high school. My brother went to the high school, which is like right across from the street to my elementary school, STMC, St. Thomas More Collegiate. He would often pick me up from elementary school, which is like, like I guess like a field's length away from my school. And he's 8 years older than me. So we never really saw each other in the same school. But we knew of this guy, high school teacher, a physics teacher named Mr. Muse from the school. And so one day he just decided to kind of bring me out there and just introduce myself to Mr. Muse at this ultimate practice. I saw him throw a frisbee like, I don't know, maybe 40 yards or something, and that's how it went. I was just immediately like amazed at how a frisbee flies, and so.
Okay, so from then, no college ultimate, but did you play in high school, like the high school scene and like juniors?
Yeah, so I officially started playing like ultimate frisbee in grade 10. So that was when my real enjoyment of the game kind of like bloomed. So I'd like throw during recess, during lunch, whenever I can with my friends. And that year I didn't make any local teams or anything like that, but I just decided to play the rec league here, the UL, with a couple of my high school friends. The following 2 years, I made the Vortex program, and in my senior year, I made the old school, like what is the Dino or Prime now.
Okay, what year was that?
2015. Yeah, the infamous finals with the.
Oh, you're on that team.
Yeah, with all the legends like Mike McKenzie, Connor Armstrong, those guys. Down 10-3, and they took it on Universe against us. A real heartbreaker.
Oh man, we don't want to bring that up for all the BC folks listening. So
no,
that's definitely tough. But you had some legends. Obviously, Tyler Revere's on that team. I know Aiden Weeb was also on that team. It seems like, at least from maybe I just don't know that Alpha team as well, but are there a lot of those players still playing? Because it seems like a lot of those Toro players are still playing, like a Mike McKenzie, for example. Brenton Tan still playing in the States and things like that. But are people still playing out there in Vancouver, like from that team?
I think there's maybe one or two members from that team on Blackfish, but I think the only two players that I guess like play internationally would be myself and Ty at the moment.
Okay. So some Ultimate history for you folks. I've asked Ultimate Canada many times for the footage of that game, but apparently, like Sports Canada TV, who was filming at the time, they've lost it. So all you have is like the highlights, like the N. Kalakovic highlights, and there's other highlights out there, but you don't get the full game. So you don't have to relive it. You don't have to relive it again.
That's great. Nobody wants to relive those moments, anyways.
Yeah, for sure. So talk about now. You go from. And this is the theme of the podcast, if you haven't noticed, folks, is two people who haven't made TC before that are making it on WC, the second highest level you can make besides World Games, of course. So for you, Sam, what was the key to your development to get to that point? What did you do? What happened?
I think for a couple of years after I came out of high school, I think my perception of how much I loved the game was tied down to how I perceived or how I performed on the field. And so naturally, like I was never like the most like athletically gifted or like most like ultimate like IQ gifted player out there. So right out of high school, that kind of like you take a hard hit with your ego getting cut from U20s. And then like afterwards, it's just like, I don't really want to touch a Frisbee. I don't think I'm going to be really good at it. So that all happened in 2016. I got cut from the U20 squad. I played that summer with Blackfish and had a terrible time with them. It's just, there was too much drama, I would say, to encapsulate the whole thing. Yeah. And then I decided right there and then, like, hey, like, I'm going to just retire from Frisbee. Like, I don't see a career like where I'm going to get any further than this. Like, my peers are like, they're well deserving and like way more qualified to play at this level than I am. And so I just decided then and there that like, I'm just going to hang up my cleats and I'm not going to play anymore. So I took the whole next year off of playing Frisbee. And I think it was like at the tail end of that 2017 year where like I was like just doing a full-time job and I was just grinding in a restaurant job, and I was just, this seemed so mundane and so tedious, and I was just like, man, what am I doing with my life? Like, I have no other extracurriculars. I'm not really going to school or anything. Like, I'm just doing this day-to-day job. And so I started getting this itch to kind of like play Frisbee again. And so going into 2018, like I just tried out casually for I guess like this open tryouts for like CEIUS, Blackfish, and what was known as the C team, Whitefish. And so I made Whitefish, and there's another TC guy on it, Vince Bullock, who was also on that team in 2018. And you know, like on that team, like you're a C team, and you don't really expect to win any tournaments or like win any games. But I think over the course of that whole summer that I spent with him, it was the absolute most fun I've ever had playing Frisbee in my life. And I think at that moment, that definition of how I love the game, like, changed significantly for me in terms of it really didn't matter how I performed or what I was doing with the sport. I just liked playing Frisbee. Like, I genuinely just loved playing Frisbee, throwing around the Frisbee and hanging out with people in the Frisbee community. And so I think that was the greatest turning point I had, because at that point I realized that like I can try my best in this sport, and anything that happens in the sport for me is just a huge dub, because I just liked being out there with everyone. And so fast forward a little bit into 2019, I played for the Opens Fraser Valley team DNA. That was the world qualifying year as well, and there was only 2 bids for BC. And obviously, knowing that like Furious George is going to make it for sure, hands down, right? Yeah. And so Blackfish and DNA had this duke out, and I think we lost 15-13 in this really heated, like really close game match. And that was the first time I didn't get to go to CECs, and it was just absolutely heartbreaking, because I loved the game so much at that point, because I just rediscovered why I was playing Ultimate. But to have it like kind of stripped away like that and not being able to compete anymore, I was just like, man, that kind of sucks really harsh. And so yeah, I think that year, my best friend and I, Russ, who was also on that DNA team, decided like, hey, we're gonna take training seriously from here on out. Like, we're just gonna go to the gym. We're gonna stay really committed and consistent with our gym programs. And honestly, those first couple of months, gymming was kind of hilarious, because like we had no idea how to like properly train as an athlete. So we were just lifting a bunch of random weights, like competing with each other, trying to see like how many reps that we can pull off in this specific exercise, like a bunch of goofballs. But yeah, I think those two events kind of built the foundation for the coming years. It was just a lot of groundwork, like consistency in the off season, just like putting as much hours as I can on the track, in the gym, and just seeing how far I can go. And as far as performance, tryouts, and all that, I just kind of knew that like I've already hit like rock bottom. Like I've quit Frisbee. Like I've only played on a C team. Like how far worse can it be? Like, so I just, you know, I didn't really think about mentality wise when I go to these tryouts now. Like I just don't really think about like if I'm going to make the team, or like what's going to happen, or like expectations or anything like that. I kind of just play it because I simply just love playing the game.
I like that. Just a change of attitude. It usually when people are playing more free and don't have those expectations, they actually play better. That's what I hear from the grapevine. So this past year, was that your first year with Furious? Were you a rookie this year?
Yeah, I made Fierce last year, 2022. Got my first international experience doing WUC with them, and then returned this year in 2023, and that's all my Fierce career has to say right now.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And within making one of the top teams, or some would say a top team, not this year because unfortunately didn't win at CUC, but one of the top teams in Canada. Was there like a time during that period where you realized, okay, I might have a shot at TC here, I should apply? Like, what led you to even apply then, during that time?
I think I've had more definitive, I'm not going to make TC moments than I've had oh snap, I have a legitimate shot at TC. I think after I got cut from the U20 squad, like I said, I just didn't want anything to do with making these TC teams anymore because there was just way more qualified ultimate frisbee athletes in Canada than myself. And my ensuing U24 years, I just decided I'm still in this process where I'm training, and I'm still in this process of kind of discovering what works best for me, what my role is as a player in general. And this process it took a while, but I think I was really grateful for this process because I was able to discover all these little nuances of my game that I had. I don't know, a big what if question is, had I made U24s, would I still put in the same effort? Would I still love the game as much as possible, right? And so there's a bit of love-hate in that scenario and regret in that scenario, but I think everything came out, as expected for myself. I just went out, played my game, and everything kind of just aligned with the effort that I put into it.
And so let's fast forward into tryouts. Amanda gave us a snapshot earlier of her experience at tryouts. Can you give just a brief kind of snippet of what trials look like for you? Because you've tried out for TC before, like you said, but this is the top players. It's adults, so everyone's eligible to play. So talk us through tryouts there.
Yeah, so I think in comparison, I think when I went into tryouts for U20s, I was definitely nervous. I was thinking about my competitors. There was some studs that came out to try out, obviously Ty, Aiden. I did a lot of comparison, these guys are doing some pretty amazing things out here. How do I stand out? How can I really solidify my spot into this team? And that was my mentality going into the U20 tryouts. But I think this time around, when I went to the West WUC tryouts for TC, I kind of just went in with zero expectations of making the team and kind of zero expectations of my competitors. I think a part of me was just it really didn't even have anything to do with being on Furious either. I think it's just a part of me was I've been training for maybe 3-4 years now, consistently, kind of every day, as much as I can, as much as possible. And a part of me was just if this work doesn't really pull off and doesn't really give me the results that I need, then that's something I have to accept. And that's everything I could have done to make this team. And, when it's coming down to trial, it's making the team isn't really your call. It's the coach's call and whatnot, right? So I think going into that, I was they're going to make the call regardless of if I make the team or not. So all I can really do is put my best foot forward and play my hardest. And if I'm taken, then I'm taken. And if I'm not, then I'm not. And so that was my real mentality going into this trial is I'm just going to put as much effort and as much passion out onto the field. And the rest is up to whoever wants me.
And you then receive, obviously, the good news later on. Tell us kind of when you heard, how you heard, who you told. Just give us the whole experience of what that was like.
Right. Okay. So I was actually in the gym. This was 2 or 3 months after USAU Nationals, and I had taken 2 or 3 weeks off of frisbee and training in general just to rest and deload and everything. But I think it was my first or second week back into my off-season training. I was at the gym. I think I came right off of classes from school. So I went straight to the gym. I was lifting my weights and I was in between sets and I was just checking my email from my phone. And then there was a headliner saying walk Team Canada mix. And I was like, oh man, this must be the results email for TC and whatnot. So I applied both for opens and mixed, and it didn't really matter if I made opens or mixed, although my preferences were in order of opens and mixed. I was happy to make either of those teams. And so when I opened it, I was like reading it and I was like, oh snap, did I make it? And then I said, they're offering me a roster spot. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And like everyone in the gym was just staring at me because I was just like jumping around like a maniac, just celebrating the small dub. And so I finally realized that like I made the TC like the realization was setting in. And so I immediately jumped out of the gym. I went on the phone and I called Russ immediately because this has been a big dream that we've been trying to build on for years with each other since he's been my close gym friend for so long. And so I called him immediately, and he and I were just screaming on the phone with each other and just like, oh my God, you did it. You absolutely crushed it. I was like, and we were just being ecstatic and happy together. And like we talked for, I don't know, maybe like 5-10 minutes about how ecstatic we were that I made the team. And then I just went back in and started gymming again.
All right. Hey, right back to the grind. He's ready. So, no, that's really cool. And hopefully that inspires some other people. And this is kind of as we wrap up our interview here, a chance for you to inspire. Hopefully already, folks, you've been inspired. But and maybe you've quit Ultimate and you want to get back into it. And hey, look, Sam did it, so you can do it as well. Give some advice out there for people, especially those who get cut a couple times and don't get that taste right away. What's the advice you got?
I think the best advice I can give to any athlete is to believe in yourself. And I think a lot of the time that concept is kind of misconstrued in the sense that it's false confidence that carries you all the way through. But I think when you're believing in yourself, it kind of means that you are wholeheartedly sticking to that endeavor. And that means maybe like being super committed or disciplined to your training programs, and believing that and trusting that when you're on the field, that all these reps that you put in the off hours is going to be replicated onto the field. And conversely enough, if you don't make a team, or if you're cut from a team or whatever, you still believe in the fact that you can bounce back and not fall into this kind of like dark rabbit hole where you just think like, oh, I'm not good, or like I'm not good enough to do this and whatnot. So I think that's the best advice I could give to any young athlete, is just believing in yourself.
And put the reps in too, because you went gymming hard, it sounds like. So you gotta believe, but you gotta put in the work to make that belief like a reality as well. So
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, right. Because you can believe, but if you're not putting in the work, you gotta put in the work too, right, Sam? Like you gotta
create that real confidence in yourself, not just a false bravado of being the best player on the field, but you gotta really put in the off hours works, and then the results will come.
There you go. Any final thoughts for the audience here before I do a little sign off? But any final thoughts you got?
Super excited to play on TC. Thanks for anyone who ever believed in me, first of all, and I hope I do you all proud in Australia.
Yeah, excited for you to go to Land Down Under. Wishing you and of course the team the best of luck. Thank you for coming on, Sam, and that wraps up our episode today, folks. So thank you for tuning in. In the sub only, I'm going to talk about my fours experience at university, which I talked about earlier in the news. But Sam and I are going to sign off together. Thank you once again. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Won't be an episode next week, so see you in a couple weeks. But Sam, thank you for coming on. We're signing off from the Huckin A podcast. Appreciate it. Follow us on Instagram, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.